Now back to our interview with Damon West.
Okay, so yeah, here you are now on your way to prison. Tell us what happened. What's going on here, and how you managed to find Christ there.
Oh man, so I know from talking to Mr. Jackson what to expect for prison, that, hey, he's like, man, you're going to get into a lot of fights in here. You're not going to get into I made my parents a promise. My parents promised me, Damon, come back as the man we raised. You know, no tattoos, and don't get into one of these white hate groups because you're scared because you're a minority in there. And so I tell Mr. Jackson, I tell everybody on my pod in county jail, I've made this promise, and then everybody laughs at me. But Mr. Jackson takes me serious, and he says, listen, if you're going to do that, you need to understand that you're going to get in a lot of fights, and you're not going to win all your fights. He said, he gave me this point. He said, you don't have to win all your fights in life, but you do have to fight all your fights. He said, don't ever turn down a fight. And that's a lesson in life, Father.
Yeah, that's what you've taken and you're using now.
Right, because I mean, I've learned more about myself from my losses than I ever did from my wins. When was the last time you really inspected a win? But when you get your butt handed to you, you really inspect
humbled.
that. You're
That's
humbled.
right.
That's right. You're broken out. Like I said, rock bottom's a good foundation to grow on. So here I am going into prison with this understanding there's going to be a lot of violence, but man, I had no clue, even with what he told me. It was extremely violent when I got there. And first, because prison's all about race.
Yeah.
So first, all the white gangs want to get a crack at you. So the Aryan Brotherhood, the Aryan Circle, the White Knights of the Woods, I'm fighting all these guys off. It takes a couple weeks. And then after that, like Mr. Jackson told me, he said, after you get done with the white gangs, the black gangs are going to come after you, because the white gangs are going to send them. Crips, the Bloods, Gangster Disciples, Mandingo Warriors. So I'm fighting all these guys. And Father, I'm so terrified. Every time I leave that cell, someone yells out, West, I want to look at you in the shower. And there's nothing crazy about what they're saying. I want to look at you in the shower means we're going to box in that shower right now, because people fight in the shower in prison. There's no guards back there. There's no cameras, and blood cleans up really easily out of there. And so I'm doing that. I'm about 6 weeks into prison, man. And I go down to the prison chapel, and this is one place that I've tried to get to as much as I can, but I'm so terrified to leave my cell, I just don't go that much. And I go there and I find this lady named Miss D Doucette, this little old Catholic lady down there. And there's a big Catholic community at this prison. It's one of the biggest in Texas. I just blessed to end up at that prison. And I go in there and I ask Miss D if we can talk and close the door. And I tell her, Miss D, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this 65 years. I'm really thinking about killing myself. And she talks to me about my Catholic faith. She's Catholic too. And she says, look, you've got to do like your mom said, get on God's back. And she said, baby, do you have a rosary? And I said, no, Miss D, I don't. They took it from me when I came from county jail, because you can't bring anything into prison with you. And so she gave me this prison rosary. This is my rosary from prison still, Father. I carry this thing with me everywhere I go. And people, since I've been out, have given me all these ornamental and nice rosaries, but I dance with who brung me, man. This is the one that Miss D gave me, and she prayed a rosary with me right there on the spot, and she said, pray one of these every day for me. Promise that you'll pray it, and you'll talk to the Blessed Mother and ask the Blessed Mother to intercede for you. And I did, and she put me in all the Catholic classes I could get into at that chapel. They have a lot of Catholic groups to get into. The Brotherhood of St. Dismas is one of the ones I really, do you know who St. Dismas is? The good thief. But I immediately identified with this, because here I am. I'm a thief, and I'm a convicted thief. But I'm not a bad guy. I made a lot of mistakes, and I was on drugs, but I'm not a bad guy, and I just want to be loved again. I want to be like that prodigal son and come home to something. So I start getting down in that chapel as much as I can. And then eventually, one of the chaplains in there gets me into what's called the Acts retreat. They called them Acts at the time. Now they're called the St. Colby Ministry, because St. Colby is the patron saint of prisoners. And I go in there, and it's a 4-day retreat. And these men from the outside, Father, that came in, men like Joe Tatoris, the guy that's a buddy of mine now that goes to the retreats with me. But Joe and these guys come in, and they leave their homes, their families, their jobs, their lives for 4 days to come spend time with the incarcerated, the sinners, the menace. Nobody wants to be around us prisoners, you know? And they loved on us. They hugged us. And I saw every man in there, the biggest, baddest guys in the joint, after 4 days in that retreat, were crying like babies, man. You saw the Holy Spirit work that room. And there was something in there. And that's when I learned about servant leadership. The secret to life, Father, is serving others and being humble. And that's what I learned about that from those men. And that servant leadership was something I could take and grow on. And I got into recovery in prison. Recovery. I'm an addict. If I don't have a program of recovery, I don't have anything.
And so God does this powerful work in your life in the prison. You're converting, you're transforming in there. How long were you there actually?
Okay, I was in prison for 7 years and 3 months.
And then came the time where you could be released and the probation?
Yeah, so they came November 16th, 2015. Yeah. 2 years ago today.
So it's being pre-recorded today.
Yeah, so
praise the Lord.
2 years ago, they came by and said, hey, look, we're going to give you one shot. We're going to let you go. But if you come back, we're going to have you finish off this sentence for us. So they came back and told me, you're on parole till 2073. Go out there and don't make any more mistakes and be the best person you can be. And so now I've got this opportunity in front of me.
And you've become a servant leader. And tell us about your servanthood right now and how you're showing leadership out, ministering to college students and college athletes. And
oh man, well, the first thing was getting this job at Provost Humphrey Law Firm. I had to have a foundation to build on, and they opened the door. They gave me a shot. I never hired a felon. And from that, this firm has allowed me to go all over the country to all these speaking engagements. I go to high schools, churches, youth groups. Back at home in the diocese in Beaumont where I am, they let me go to talk to all the youth groups. I spend most of my Wednesdays doing it last year. I go to the church conventions and talk to them. College football teams all over the country. I was just at University of Alabama in August talking to their football team because I was a college football player too, and I have this unique currency to spend with everybody. But it's not just so much the warning about the dangers of drugs and addiction and the consequences of bad decisions. It's the message of hope, Father. It's the message of hope that if I could build a life inside of that environment, or as Coach Dabo Swinney said, if you can bloom where you're planted. You know, if I could bloom where I was planted in there, then that's got to give people hope. You know, hope that whatever problem you're facing, whatever you're going through, hey, if God could work that in Damon West's life, God can work it in your life too.
Amen.
And that's the message I try to bring to people. And I'm always trying to find that one kid in the crowd, that one kid that you stop something in its tracks from ever happening.
So, you know, the retreat you had in the prison changed your life forever. And now you're giving back. You're doing the same thing. Tell us about what you're doing in the prisons now.
All the things I do in life, Father, the colleges, the high schools, the churches, the youth groups, they're great. I love doing it. I love being able to give back and doing God's work. But the prison, man, that's the best thing I have going. I get to go into prisons now. I get to go into my old prison with this same St. Colby group and bring those retreats to inmates like men used to bring it to me. Servant leadership. I mean, here it is. God, we've come full circle now. The guy that was going through the retreat is now the guy bringing the retreat to other people. And in a prison environment, man, I've got a currency to spend with these guys. I've got street cred when I go into a prison, any prison in America, because those guys can't look at me and say, well, that guy's never done a hard time. I have a life sentence. Or he never did time in a hard unit, one of the hardest units in Texas, you know? But I get to go back in these prisons now and bring a message of hope. And every one of these guys, I mean, I get 100% participation out of this deal. These guys will all come up and say, Damon, you bring us hope. And I tell them, that's great. But if you want what I've got, you got to start today. You got to turn your life over to Jesus Christ. You've got to change what you're doing in here. You got to start those habits today. You've got to become a servant leader inside this place. And because that's what I had to do. But the great thing about it is, especially in the prison, last weekend, I was inside my old prison where I did my time with the Colby retreat. And those guys all know that I'm not just talking something. I walk the walk because they remember, man, Damon went out and helped other people. Because the secret to life is serving others and being humble. You help other people reach their goals in life. And when you're really helping other people and you're doing it for nothing but the good of God, then you're really living, you know, because you've got to work. I tell these guys, you got to work out 3 areas every day in this prison. It's going to be the hardest thing in the world, spiritually, mentally, physically. You know, you are what you eat. That's not just with food, but what are you feeding yourself spiritually? Do you tap into God? Do you feed yourself spiritually at all? What kind of books are you reading? What kind of videos you watch? What kind of TV do you watch in the day room?
What kind of friends?
What kind of friends do you hang around? You show me who you hang out with, I'll tell you who you are. Most people in life want to be led, Father. That's a fact. And in the absence of good leadership, they'll take bad leadership. A thirsty man in the desert will drink the sand when he sees a mirage, and it'll kill him.
Well, hey, this is a powerful, wonderful story, Damon. Thank you for coming here and sharing it with us. You know, that's exactly what you did. I know that this is going to be powerful and effective to all our viewers, all our watchers. You know, they know for certain now that all things are possible with God, and you're a living proof of it. You're a walking miracle. Thanks be to God, and thanks for what you're doing in the church.
I'm humbled to be here. Thank you very much.
God bless you, man.
Thank you very much.